Welcome, everybody, to the Seattle Sports Union podcast. My name is Abraham DeWeese. I'm back again with Nathan Savage and the Southwest Seahawk, Rob English. Guys, yesterday, that game against the Jets with our Seattle Seahawks looked like it was in doubt, and I was panicking. I had to message you guys to get me off the ledge. Uh, were you guys in full panic mode early in the game?
I was certainly in a bit of panic mode early, but ironically, what the game started to feel like was um, a Seahawk game from not recent, but just maybe just a few years back from recent, where we would be late trailing in a game late, and we had, of course, Russell, last name Wilson, on the team at this point. And remember how that feeling was? You never really felt like you were out of a game. Like, even though it wasn't quite working, it wasn't clicking the way you expected it to, or wanted it to, or saw how things should have been going. But you just kind of knew that it's going to work out. There was this feeling like that we're going to figure this out. I never thought the game was out of hand after, say, like the second quarter. Once the second quarter, I was like, okay, this is not. But New York is not looking good enough to actually beat us. We just haven't got our ball rolling yet. So it was very strange. It felt like an old time Seahawk game from like maybe 5-6 years ago.
And it kind of does. Nathan?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought that was like the Texans game where Sherman, lost his shoe for the touchdown to win the game, or that muscle hamster Tampa Bay game where they're up 23-0 and then the Seahawks came back. The only thing for me, though, I will say is I did feel very lucky that we're playing the Jets. And the whole time I was like, oh, we're playing the Jets. But when they got that fumble again, 21-3, and Aaron Rodgers was right there for a touchdown. Luckily, he overthrew Garrett Wilson. I think if he connects on that touchdown there, it's game over. But luckily, he overthrew a wide open Garrett Wilson in the end zone. And then we got the, Leonard Williams pick six, big man pick six. And then that flipped it all the way. But that game was on the knife edge to being too much for this offense to overcome. Luckily, the defense got involved again and saved it. But yeah, everything that could go wrong went wrong to start the game.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that defense. Even stronger than we had seen in the last couple games. Is this a matter of they're just starting to get it? Or is this a matter of the players buying in? Or is it another matter of they've gotten rid of a couple players who didn't fit?
I want to say it's kind of all the above, right?
Okay.
I mean, they're playing great. I'm almost to the point where I'm waiting for the wave to break and like roll back, right? Like, okay, we've been on a good one for a while. Okay, it can't keep just looking better every week, can it? Like, but it is for 3 weeks in a row, and the 3 games in a row now. It looks better each time. So yeah, I mean, the points that we gave up against New York on Sunday were, largely, I think, due to just give up poor field position. The defense is playing lights out. Obviously, the pick six was awesome. I think we shut them out in the second half, right? So it's only getting better, and we're going to need it because we have some games coming up.
Nathan, is it equal parts, or is there one particular thing that you think?
For me, it's just all McDonald, I think. Like, we just watched Dotson get juked completely out of his shoes by Josh Jacobs in there. When Green Bay was playing, he disappeared off the screen. It was so bad, and I think there was a lot of questions about that. I think that's shifted all the way to the McDonald side, where he was definitely right about what he was saying. I think when you bring in a guy like that, it's going to take a little bit for the team to mesh. But every position that we wanted to be successful the last few years, every big name that we brought in, it seems like they're shining with this defense and getting better every week and being a focal point and something that opposing teams have to worry about, and then still getting put in good positions to succeed. I think this is a McDonald masterclass for me, where they figured out what's going on now with his defense, and it's clicking on all cylinders.
Right on. Well, your biggest fear seems to be coming true, Nathan. Earlier this season, you'd been protesting. I saw you with the sign outside of Seahawks Stadium, Lumen. You were saying, "Heck no to Grubb." and no one is believing you. You're starting to make a little bit of a believer out of me. Either they're not picking up what he's putting down, or maybe what he's trying to run doesn't work. I'm trying to figure out what it is that has made this offense uh, average at best in the last several weeks.
For me,
is it Grubb
it's
or is
just
it
the
the players?
for me it's this it's just I feel like I'm watching the national championship game every week.
You're talking about the
now.
UW versus Michigan is what you're talking about.
Yeah, just where I like what he's doing with his routes, but they're too slow developing with the amount of time the quarterback has back there in a top level defense, which is everyone in the NFL basically, um, compared to who he was facing before in college. And then on top of that, the running game, I'm not sure if it's scheming, but it's just you watch over and over. Kenneth Walker is like I think leading the league in broken tackles or is leading in some categories in relation to that, but he's getting 40 yards a game. And that again is, I think at this point to me, it's a little bit of scheming. I know it's difficult with the O line, but I think I want with this level of defense, I want a running game. And that was one of my biggest fears with Grubb is he continuously showed at UW an inability to get a running game going, even with an elite, tops in a college football O line. And as exciting as the passing is, exciting as some of the route trees are coming into the season, I think if you want to win with this type of team, with Mike McDonald as your coach, you got to run the ball. And that's been what's most frustrating to me is the inability to run the ball.
Southwest, is it the players that got to adjust or is it Grubb that's got to adjust?
Depending on what time, what point in the game you ask me, I suppose my question or my answer changes. I do see some play calling that to me just seems unimaginative or vanilla. We had some short yardage plays on Sunday, and I'm thinking, okay, we are, we're not putting a lot of yards on the ground, but I saw a little bit of movement on the line there in the trenches, and I'm thinking, just run the ball, We were down at the goal line, we had 127 chances inside the 3, and we couldn't get there. Like, just run the ball. But each time we want to throw the pass, he missed. Gino misses Noah Fant to the right, and then he ends up, ultimately getting that big sack, losing 15 something yards. We were, which I was okay with going for it on 4th down there, right? Because if you don't get it, worst case scenario, they have the ball on their own half-yard line. But then the play calling, it just seemed wrong for each play. Like each play that was called should have been called the play before or the play after. So there's that. But then I also do think, to Nate's point, we're not running the ball well from an execution standpoint. We're not running the ball well from an execution standpoint. We're not getting the holes that we need for the running back to do something with them. I think this is just as much a scheme issue as it is an execution issue. So I'm not ready to I'm not ready to close the book on Ryan Grubb just yet. But we need to fix it somehow, some way. But I'm blaming the players as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of in everybody's to blame mode here. The question about special teams, though, comes up when we talk about blame. And it looks like Laviska Shenault, one of our returners, got the finger pointed at him. He got cut today. What are your guys' thoughts? Is he the scapegoat, or is this some sort of knee-jerk reaction to some bad special teams?
Well, I think Shenault, he has struggled to find his place on this roster, even as it were. For a while, we were seeing him on the field on offense, then we stopped seeing him there. And then okay, let's bring him, see what we can do to spark on the return game, and he screws that up. I wonder if that was just like a last, the last straw, because Williams fumbled the ball too on a return. So it's like, we had a rough go of it on special teams. We were able to overcome, but yeah, special teams was rough, and it's been rough in at certain times this season. But hey, you know what? If you get down to where you're a fringe player, if you're a fringe player, you can't make mistakes like that, and that's kind of how it goes.
So was he rightfully cut, or was he a example?
Was he the one who picked up the ball again and then fumbled it to the?
That was,
I think for me that's just why he gets cut there. I think we've seen it across the league this year. There's it's a new kickoff. The ball flutters. It's a little bit difficult to handle. Even the punters are just on another level with how they're hitting knuckleballs this season. We're seeing a lot of punts dropped, a lot of kicks dropped. I think he misses a couple. That's okay, especially with his touchdown. Him picking it up again and trying to run with it and then fumbling again, I think that's where they just took him off right there. And
did you want to see him just drop on the ball and make sure it's?
I think that's just the rule. That's the universal rule. Is at that point you cut your losses. You don't try to pick up the ball again. And I think that's coached universally, basically throughout the league. And him choosing to do that, I think, is what got him cut in that situation.
So this was a bad game, but the win. We got the win. I'd rather take a bad win over a moral victory loss. And I do wonder, though, is this win like? Do we need to take some? Do we need to take some something away from this where we came back from a huge deficit, and that speaks to gritting out and gutting out a win, or is this just a incredibly pathetic Jets team that we lucked out in playing?
Yeah, no, I think we have to look at ourselves and not get too high or high at all on this win. This is a team, again, comes down to whether or not you can beat the teams you're supposed to beat, right? There every calendar, every schedule, depending on what team you are, there's going to be teams on there that you're just supposed to beat. And I think this is a team that we are supposed to beat. And if you look at the numbers, it'd be kind of hard to tell who won this game if you look at the stats. I mean, we were 1 yard away from each other. 1 yard separates our total net yards on offense. So, I mean, like the game was evenly played. A few choice plays told the story, but we didn't go in and just beat up on this Jets team like the way you would expect to when you think your team is much better than them. So, yeah, we still have a lot of work to do. And if we can't get it fixed in the next 7 to 10 days, we're gonna have some trouble because we got some tough teams coming up.
What do you think, Nathan?
For me, that was one of my favorite wins, and one of the ones I honestly was the most excited off that because I think things like special teams, we have a rookie coordinator, never been in the NFL, that might need to get fixed in the future. Offense, again, struggling, that might need to get fixed in the future. But to go into this game and win a game where you spot, 3 free possessions like that straight away off special teams to the opposing team and, come with that kind of deficit, something on your team has to be elite. Something has to be tops in the NFL to come back from that type of game. And I feel that way about the defense. And that's why we picked up McDonald. And my thinking after the game is, we don't even need to draft O-line. We don't need to draft anything on offense. Let's just go all in on McDonald, get him the weapons he needs to. We'll win a bunch of these games and be elite at something. And I think it's very rare in the NFL to be that good or that much better than the NFL. But McDonald was that last year. And I'm really excited to see more of that. And, sometimes it's going to happen in the NFL. We see it with the Chiefs or these other top teams where they spot a few turnovers. Some things go wrong on special teams. The wind's bad that day. It's a little bit cold, but somehow they eke out the win because they're the top teams. And I was really excited about that. Yes, it's the Jets. That's one of the weaker teams. And there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, to beat an NFL team where you spot them three extra possessions right off the bat like that, I thought was really awesome. And again, McDonald is just on fire right now with his defense.
Right on. One thing that I saw with the injury to our punter, Dixon, it made me appreciate what he has been able to do for this team, and it makes me fearful that if he stays, if he's injured for any period of time, that we could be in a world of hurt. Am I over-concerned about a punter, guys?
No, I mean, because there is room for conversation that I mean, maybe not up until recently, but Michael Dixon is like one of our best players. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we are going to win games based on his ability to place the ball right on target, more often than not. So especially with our offense being so inconsistent, you have to have a good kicking game to, give your defense a chance. If your offense is not going to score points, you got to help your defense out by pinning the opposing offense back. So not having Dixon, if he is out for some time, I think that's going to hamstring us. It's going to hurt us more than people might think.
Was it a hammy or the lower back?
Looked like his lower back, but you never know exactly. But it looked like he was grabbing at his lower back.
With back spasms.
Sure. Yeah.
Nathan, you worried about a punter being out for?
Yeah,
I
think kind of quietly, a guy who could have been MVP of that Cardinals game was Dixon. He was heating back up again, pinning them in their side of the field. I think when you have this good of a defense, you're going to play a lot of field position games. And, there's a reason these days punters are getting drafted in the third round. I might not agree with that, but it happens. They're very valuable in a game where every inch matters. Getting a guy giving you 10 extra yards on punting, that's a big deal. So I think it's a bummer. Hopefully, like all back related, it's more of an annoyance than, a long-term issue. But I would like to see him out there. It felt like finally, or maybe not finally, we've been lucky with punters, but it's nice to just not worry about the punting position and right. Consistently have him boom punts like that, or even pick it off the ground if necessary and crush it down the field. So I think it's real to be worried, especially with how important punting was the last time we played the Cardinals.
Right on. 4th and 1, we had a chance to kick a field goal. The Seahawks decided they're going for it. Geno Smith gets sacked for 20 yards, 20-yard loss. I don't know, guys. They're just not going to. They're not going to be a conservative team, are they? They're going to go for these 4th and 1s.
I'm okay with it. I got to be honest. I mean, I'm not saying that we should turn into Riverboat Ron Rivera, but the data, the analytics, right? It says go for it in these opportunities, and I'm always a believer that, listen, if you need 1 yard, you've got to be able to get 1 yard. I get it. You're going. It's an NFL defense. You're going out there, but you've got to just man up. You've got to be strong. If you can't go out there and get 1 yard, I mean, it's to say it's easy would be disingenuous, but 1 yard, you got to be able to have the want to go out there and get 1 yard. And there's all kinds of creative ways to go out and do it. I think we need to do better with our play calling in these situations, but I am okay. I am okay with going forward on these 3rd and 4th and shorts, or these 4th and shorts, I should say, with the game on the line, especially when you think you have momentum going your way. I mean, nothing carries up momentum along than converting on a 4th down. I mean, that completely and totally demoralizes the defense. So when you can convert those, it bodes well for the team.
Nathan, Southwest Seahawks, he seems to like the spreadsheets, and the people who create them, they tend to be guys who can't get dates and they live in their mother's basement. But your thought, Nathan, about going forward on 4th and 1 so many times when you can kick a field goal with this terrible of an offensive line?
I think it's definitely McDonald. I think McDonald might have been a little bit spoiled with the O-line they have there in Baltimore and Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. And I think a few more times you should probably kick the field goal just because of results this year. I think at a certain point it stops being analytics and it starts being how many times in a row have we watched this broken record, and maybe just kick the field goal. I think we're just so one-dimensional that teams can sell out on 4th down for the pass, and even if we hand the ball off, we're probably not going to get it. So that's what it seems like more than anything to me, is they know we're going to pass the ball, and there's just with our O-line, there's no time for Geno to try to pass the ball, and if we hand the ball off, we're probably not going to get it anyway. And I just don't know if this is the team. As frustrating it is, because you're fully right. How do you expect to win a football game if you can't get 1 yard? But this just felt like a team where we can't get 1 yard over and over. And maybe those 3 points. Like in this game, those 3 points would have been the difference between only needing a field goal or needing the touchdown like we did. So I don't know. It's tough. I don't know if I want to root for a team that again, like Rob was saying, doesn't go for it on 4th and 1. So we'll see. But it has been very frustrating to just, watch this inability to even get a functional or get close to even being able to pass the ball on these 4th downs. It's very frustrating.
Right on. All right, guys, we're getting up against the clock here. Last question. How do you feel? The 49ers lost, the Cardinals lost, Rams unfortunately won, so we have 1-game lead. We're not great on tiebreakers. How do you feel with 5 games going? 5 games left.
I feel actually pretty good. I'll be honest. I think we have, and certainly because of what we have in front of us this weekend, which is a game against the Cardinals. And we have the game against the Rams to close out the season. Those 2 games, beating the Cardinals this weekend really sets us up nice. The rest of the division has tough games, although so do we. But if we can win this game on Sunday here in Phoenix, we can actually get away with losing a game throughout the rest of the season. We don't have to necessarily win out. Of course, that'd be best. But we can actually give ourselves a little bit of a cushion to where if we drop one, we can still be okay. The one thing I don't like about it is it looks like Washington is playing well enough to where they might be able to hold that last wild card spot. It's looking like it might come down to either we win the division or we're not getting in. Like it looks like the West is only going to send their division winner to the postseason, so it's going to be rough to get in as a wild card. So so that gives me a little bit of pause, but I like where we're at. I think we have a good chance here.
For me, I think there's going to be a lot of yelling at the screen. I think there was something with the weather that really affected this Cardinals team. I know our defense has been on fire, but I think they're going to be a little more comfortable at home. And then we get Packers on 10 days rest because they're playing Thursday, so they get the extra rest. They're on fire. We get the Vikings have only lost twice. And then Rams have kind of been the boogeyman. So I think there's a path. I think no matter what, it's going to be it's all going to come down to the Rams game. But there could so easily be a path where we lose 3 in a row right now. Cardinals are still a really good team, and then Packers, Vikings, 3 loss, 2 loss. Their NFC North is just insane this year. I think they've lost 3 games the entire year. That's including the Bears. 3 games the entire year to teams outside of their division. So, we'll see what happens. But again, it just starts with this week. Everything lines up very well if they can beat the Cardinals this week, like you were saying.
Right on. Well, let's go ahead and give our shout outs, as we always like to end these shows on a positive note. The Soulman, Brian Solack, who's producing today, is giving a shout out to Julian Love. He's turning into the leader that this defense needs. I'm going to give my shout out. I'm going to give my shout out on a larger scope to the Seahawks for gutting out a win that they probably should have lost, but it shows grit and determination that we did not see earlier in this season. And I just need to reemphasize that. Southwest, you got a shout out?
Well, I'm going to go with the easy one. I'm going to go with Mr. Williams himself, the big man, rumbled, stumbled, tumbled, bumbled, however Chris Berman used to say it, for that big pick 6 for us, which really shifted the game for us. It was amazing. I loved seeing him on the sideline getting his oxygen after that because I knew he was going to need it. I'm going to go ahead and give it to him. Great play for us, kept us in the game.
Awesome.
I'm going to give a shout out to, I'm not really a Michigan fan. I'm not an Ohio State fan, but I'm a Chaos fan. And that Michigan-Ohio State game was awesome. Shout out to Michigan for, starting the Chaos off early. I think this is going to be a really fun college playoff. I think everyone's going to be upset, which is fun if you like the Chaos. And it's just going to be a complete destruction of everyone's preseason ideas about college football. So I'm excited for that to come.
Right on. Well, thank you everybody for joining us again on the Seattle Sports Union podcast. On behalf of the Southwest Seahawk, Rob English, Nathan Savage, and our producer, the Soulman, Brian Solack. My name is Abraham DeWeese. And please do check out our podcast here on YouTube, on Spotify, iTunes, as well. Check us out on social media at Seattle Sports U on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and on Facebook. And hopefully, guys, this is a sign of better things to come, and we'll have great recap shows for you, and of course previews coming up in the coming days.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.